So, this is a vlog, and this is another one of my episodes in childcare. Knowing what skills you possess as a leader, what your strengths and weaknesses are before entering into a business, especially childcare. The reason why I say that, I am currently taking my executive MBA, and one of our classes is leadership, and so it brings a lot of realization to the table of empathizing with other people. But the one thing that I don't like about theory is that sometimes it often clashes with reality. One of our lessons that we just had was knowing when to empathize with individuals. Now, in childcare, my number one priority is to make sure that my children are in a safe environment. They are cared for. They aren't hungry. They aren't thirsty. They getting all of their needs met in that time frame that we are supposed to be caring for them. Even outside of those areas, my staff and myself included are looking out for the best interests of the children. But one of the conflicts I often have is when you set policy and you set procedure continuously and your staff fails to follow procedure and policy as instructed. And when there's an issue, whether the issue be that a child got hurt, it could cause a loss of life depending on what the situation is, or someone's property was had been destroyed, either mine, the owners, or the staff members. And so when you have those areas of conflict, it's hard making the decision whether to empathize with the child, regulation, myself, or the staff member. So today's instance, was a staff member, and she got her item destroyed by a child. Now, the situation could have totally went left, meaning that the child could have gotten injured. But a few days before this, we had been focusing in on and reinforcing the fact that, hey, things need to be done this way. Work the system, work the procedure, make sure that it's followed through safely. And it wasn't. So, as the owner director, I have a teacher assistant, a team lead, which is the lead teacher, an assistant director, and then there's me at the top. The further away that you get from the top, the more interaction that you have with the child one-on-one. Meaning that it's easier for the teacher to control what's inside the environment first before I get to it. And you work the system all the way down. So the end result was something got destroyed and teacher's upset, and my response is procedure says and policy says things need to be handled in this way. Now, if it results in destruction of property for your items, then you're at a loss. The parent is not responsible, and neither is the center. Clearly in the staff handbook, policies and procedures, clearly. So you can get upset because things weren't handled in the way that they needed to be. You didn't take responsibility as the lead teacher to do your job and do it as instructed. So I am not being empathetic regarding anything. I'm only going to reinforce policy at this point. So now you have tempers flaring from the teacher because you felt like, okay, nothing was done. Something was done, reinforced policy, and you were given a verbal warning, once again, where it should have been a write-up. So that's how I'm going to be empathetic for the situation, because there's just something about today's time to where I feel like adults do not take responsibility. And it's so easy to bail out and go left. And it's okay. And I'm gonna just say, to the extent where you feel like, okay, you're blowing off steam, you're talking to family and friends, and you're just telling them what you want to do, but you don't really put any action behind it. That's completely different from just leaving the situation altogether and not handling it, especially on that scale. And for it to be brought to my attention and you thought that it received minimal attention was up for your interpretation. Because from my interpretation, you were told constantly, this is the way things need to be inside of your classroom to provide safety and welfare for the children that's in your room. So, as a director, I'm not happy. You violated policy. And however you want to take the situation, you can take it, because you were given an opportunity, because depending on that situation, the child could have gotten hurt, or you could have just simply lost your job. As an owner, thinking up on another level, you might have lost your job, because I've told you more than one occasion when I walk through and do pop-up observations that this is not correct. This is the way that things need to be handled. And don't think I'm done yet, because my assistant director, same issue, insubordination, because you failed to reinforce what needed to be done inside the classroom. If I saw it, you saw it, I said something, you didn't, there's an issue. Obviously, there's a training issue, and it goes back to my part and putting responsibility on what I need to do. So see how things are a chain of reaction. But let me tell you about myself. So I tend to give people lots of opportunities to correct their behavior, to correct what I need them to correct. And so 9 times out of 10, I'm being empathetic with people, and sometimes you just have to draw the line. So as far as leadership, my thing is not to be passive aggressive and just handle the situation. Don't have to be nasty, and that all comes with time. You just have to work on yourself, and I've come a long way, because the situation could have escalated, just like it could have escalated now. And instead of me recording and talking myself through the situation, I could have Facebook blasted. And now, is that some of you guys? You doing a Facebook blast, and they doing the bad reviews because you might have fired them. Yeah, that was like a snapshot of my first year in business. I had to grow up, and I had to grow up correctly, because guess what? It ultimately altered my business. So, just some things to think about. And again, this is my vlog. This is not none of my professional courses or documentation, anything that I sell. But this is a vlog on what I go through on a daily. This is a daily basis. So you outweigh the benefits and the risk of your health.